Hey everybody, tonight's homework is just a review of decimals. And I say review because I'm pretty much assuming that you've seen this a lot and that you're fairly familiar with it, and you just need maybe a little reminder about what to do and some examples. So this is something you can leave in your notes, and anytime you have a problem with decimals, you can look back at this chart to see what you did and at this point, and then know what you need to do on the problem that you're working on. So try to make good notes, make this something that you can keep and leave in your binder so that you'll know what to do later. Go ahead and pause the video here, copy this bubble map onto your own paper, and notice what I did was I have a bubble for adding and subtracting, and I did two for dividing because they're two different situations, and then one for multiplying. Go ahead and pause the video and copy this chart. Make your circles big enough so that you can work out the problems in the circles as well. So now that we're ready, I'm going to zoom in here so we can write inside this circle. Let me zoom in just a little bit more. I'm going to zoom into the adding circle. Now, when you're doing this, sorry, give me 1 second. Let's see if we can get this. There we go. All right, let's get this again. All right, sorry. All right, let me just go ahead and get it started then. So remember, when we're adding, we have to always line up our decimals. So we're going to put 0.678 plus, and then we line up the 5.2. And then if you want, you can put some zeros to hold this place in this spot, and it will change the value. So that's 3.678 plus 5.2. We line up our decimals. And now we just add like you've always added. 8 plus 0 is 8. 7 plus 0 is 7. 6 plus 2 is 8. Adding straight forward, the decimal comes straight down. 5 plus 3 is 8. So we have 8 and 878 thousandths as our sum. And that's pretty much it for adding decimals. Let's go on to subtracting. So here it's a little more complicated because we still got to line up our decimal. Problem is there's not a decimal here. So what you got to remember is if there's not a decimal in the number, the decimal comes after the number. And you may want to just jot that down if it's something that you aren't already very familiar with. If there is no decimal, it is at the end of the number. That's pretty important. So if, like on the 10, there's no decimal that you see, that means we understand that there's a decimal right here at the end. So we're going to put a 10 decimal, and then we're going to line up our decimals with the 3. And then so we have something to subtract, we're going to put 2 zeros here. Now we can't do, I mean, a big mistake people still make in 7th grade is they say 5 minus 0, they put 5. But that's different. Now, and this actually is 5, but that's just a coincidence. We can't say 5 minus 0 because this is 0 minus 5. So we have to regroup. We're going to cross that out, and we're going to go all, since those are all zeros, we go all the way to this one, it becomes a 9. Sorry, it becomes the zeros become 9s. Let's just cross out all the way to this one. That first one is going to become a 10. The other 2 zeros become 9s because we're borrowing from this one, and that one becomes a 0. There's a chance that some of you have forgotten how to borrow from 0. If that part is the part that confuses you, make a note of it so that I'll talk about it with you tomorrow. 10 minus 5 is 5. 9 minus 4 is also 5. Just like addition, the decimal comes straight down. 9 minus 3 is 6. So the difference between those two numbers is 6 and 55 hundredths. Once again, if this part confused you where we regrouped, just write that down, make a note, and we'll talk about it later. Now we're going to go to your multiplication circle. Now, multiplication is different in the sense that we do not line decimals up for multiplication. And that's one thing that people forget sometimes at your age. is they try to line up the decimals, and technically you could do that if you did it right, still get the right answer, but most of the time it throws you off. Do not line up decimals if you're multiplying. So let me draw an arrow. So if we zoom back out, you can see what I wrote, and that may be a good note for you to throw in there. Do not line up decimals when you're multiplying. That will, more often than not, that'll cause you to miss the problem. Zoom back in. So what we're going to do instead is just write down 6 73/100ths times 5 2/10. There we go. And the cool thing about multiplying is we actually are just going to proceed as if there were no decimals. You just ignore the decimal completely as you're doing this. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 7 is 14, so we're going to carry 1, put a 4. Once again, no decimals right yet. 2 times 6 is 12 plus 1 makes 13. And notice we do not put any decimals here. If that placeholder is 0, now we're going to go to the 5. 5 times 3 is 15. It's a 1 and a 5. 5 times 7 is 35, plus that 1 makes 36. 5 times 6 is 30, plus 3 makes 33. I'm sorry, I'm going out of the circle here. Now we add, once again, just because of things I've seen from students, no decimals here at all. The decimals come in at the very end. So we have, when we add, we have a 6, a 9, 9, 4, and then a 3. This is the point where we're going to go back and get our decimals. I'm going to use green to make it stand out. What we do is we count one number that comes after a decimal on the bottom. In the top, we have 1, 2 in the top product. So that's a total of 3 numbers that come after decimals. So I'm going to go to the end here, count over 1, 2, 3, and put the decimal right there. So when we're done with that, the actual answer is going to be 34 and 996 thousandths. Okay, we are almost done. We got 2 more left to do here. Let's do the first division. Now the first example with division is actually kind of the easier one, so let's go ahead and, neither one of them are too hard. This one's easier. Remember, the numerator always goes inside, denominator always goes outside, so that's what I did. Now 3 doesn't go into 2, so we could put a 0. Let me switch to blue so it stands out. So we could put a 0 there. The decimal always comes straight up. That's simple. Whenever it's in the dividend, the decimal goes straight up. Now we'll divide, since 3 didn't go into 2, we'll divide 3 into 20. It goes 6 times, which is 18. And we'll bring down our 4. 3 goes into 24 8 times. So this is 68 hundredths, and we're done. Last one's just a little different, and if you want to compare these two, notice in this one, the decimal is in the numerator. That's called the dividend. The decimal's in the numerator, the dividend. This one, it's in the denominator, the divisor, and so that's the reason it's just a little bit different. Let me show you. We have 244 divided by 3/10. Now for this one, the one thing we have to remember is we cannot have a decimal on the outside. So what we do is we move it over 1. What you're really doing is multiplying by 10, but if you haven't learned that yet, let's just focus on what to do. We move it 1. But like we learned with subtraction, when we added the opposite, stuff like that, we can't do anything just to one part of a problem. If we move it here, we have to come here and move it. Now where is the decimal here? Well, remember, if you don't see a decimal, it's at the end of the number. That holds true here too. The decimal's right there. Since I moved it 1 space here to get it to the end, I moved it 1 space there. And I added 0 because I moved it 1. Notice the difference. This one here, we didn't have a decimal outside, so we just brought it straight up. This one here, we had one, so we had to move it and move it. And then we would bring it straight up, and if you needed it, it's right there. Now we'll divide. 3 goes into 24 8 times. That's an 8, which is 24. And leaves us the remainder of 0. We'll bring down our 4. 3 goes into 4 one time. I'm sorry, I'm going off again. Leave us with 1. And then we have this 0 to bring down. 3 goes into 10 3 times, which is 9. We'll have 1 left over. And then since we have a decimal already, we can just add a 0, bring our decimal up, bring the 0 down. 3 goes into 10 3 times, which is 9. And you notice if we keep going, we keep getting this 1 left over. If we keep adding zeros here, we're going to keep getting 3s up here. So at this point, we know that 3 is going to repeat, so we put a line over it showing that it's going to keep going over and over and over again. So I'll switch to green so this stands out. The answer is 813 3/10, repeating. And that's dividing when the decimal is in the divisor, or outside of the box. I'll zoom back out so you can see the whole thing. All right. That was a lot at once, I realize that. Hopefully, for most of you, this gives you just the reminder that you needed to sort of do these in class. For those of you who didn't get these the first time around when you were in younger grades, this probably wasn't enough to teach you from scratch all these things. It takes much more time. Please, whichever group you're in, write down what you're wondering more about so that you don't forget. Bring that to me so that I can help you. Or if you want to submit it on Edmodo, I didn't quite understand this, can you give more examples? That gives me a place to work from so that I can maybe post more videos for you to watch at home, or just in your spare time, not as homework. Or I can just come to you in class and help you too. So just let me know. You should have, when you get to class, you should have this whole chart just sort of like I've done it.